week in racing. It's time to recap it. And who better to do it than Michael and Magic? Two bros/pros who cover the highs and lows of racing around the globe on every one of their shows. Real fans look forward to these guys and their last thoughts, cause they know they're not talking out of their royal ascot. What they say makes sense. So ladies and gents, sit back and relax as Blinkers Off presents The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.
What's up, everybody? I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
And this is the Magic Mike Show.
Huzzah!
Episode 250. Mr. Samich, it almost feels like a momentous occasion. I feel like we should be celebrating. How you doing today?
We're always celebrating when we're together,
That's
my
true.
man. Like, you can't hold us down. It's a fun time to get on here and talk about some horses. And this weekend especially was just a reminder of why I both love and hate this game.
Well, speaking of love, episode 250 is a special one. We have a special sponsor. We want to thank Miguel Clement and Acacia Courtney for sponsoring this. Horse racing's up-and-coming power couple finally got engaged over the weekend. Congrats to those two lucky kids. They both, Acacia Courtney obviously is a big name already in horse racing. Miguel's father is Christophe Clement, and he's the assistant trainer for the barn. Yeah, he's a pretty good up-and-coming guy, too. So congratulations to the happy couple and celebrating love. Yeah, I'm curious to hear, once we get into the show, why you love and hate the sport after this weekend, because all I know is you had yourself a really nice weekend.
Well, I had myself a really good Sunday. Like,
Okay.
We're going to talk about this Golden Hour Pick 4, which I handicapped the living bejesus out of and did not cash. So that happened. Like, and then I couldn't hit the broadside of a barn and like my pit tickets on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. I kept going like 3 out of 4, like back-to-back top pick winners, and then they just run off the board. And then, either the 4 out of 5 or, you play the 25-1 shot in the race, but can't string anything together with it. It just like, and then I was doing terrible in everything until the last 6 races where I just bam to bam to bam to bam to bam, and all of a sudden it was a good day. Like, it shows you why it just is so frustrating, yet at the same time so exhilarating.
Sounds just like your NHC weekend, where like all throughout the day you're like, you just can't hit, and right when your hype man is about ready to turn in the microphone, boom! All of a sudden, there he goes, he comes alive. So Mike is like that late running sprinter. He needs the right setup on paper, but man, if he gets that right setup, look out, he's coming flying.
I would much rather be that speed horse, man. It is so much less stressful to be in front the whole time than it is to just come out of the clouds.
Well, we have an interesting show today. It's going to be a little lighter. This was the last weekend that we don't have any Kentucky Derby prep races until the trail's done and we're getting ready for the Kentucky Derby. So we did have the Saudi Cup. We'll get to talk about the Saudi Cup a little bit. We're going to review our tickets from the Golden Hour that Mike and I were talking about. Mike talked about just a moment ago. But before we get into it, Mike, I want to know what's the best thing you saw this weekend?
This is pretty easy. The NHC tournament on Sunday is the best thing I saw. And it's because, like, I love the community that we've kind of formed around the Magic Mike Show. And to see all the different people from the show that are playing it and the names that show up on the tournament leaderboard. And then, for a pretty big deal is getting to the NHC. There's 3 seats given away in this tournament on Sunday. And I'm getting messages and texts. And I'm sitting there in 6th place. Dr. Tang, who's always on here watching and enjoying the show, is sitting there in 5th place with one in front of me. I'm getting Geist Paddle hitting me up. He's sitting in 19th. It's fun to have all of these people that have gotten involved in tournaments and that are going after the NHC and playing these things, and then to actually share it and have everyone communicating and laughing and rooting for each other and going for it. It makes it a lot more fun, man. And so it's great to see those names from the Magic Mike Army that are showing up on the leaderboard and playing these tournaments with us and coming oh so close, man. Like, all 3 of us had legit shots at seeding yesterday, and it didn't end up happening. I think we finished like 5th, 6th, and like 22nd or something. But I would not be surprised at all if you see both Geist and Dr. Tang out there in Vegas in February 2022.
Bring it on. Let's have a big party. That's what we're planning for. Listen, you kind of forgot to mention someone's name who was also right there with you in the tournament, Jared Welch. He is, he sent me a screenshot. You guys were tied dead even at the top of a leaderboard with 2 races left at Santa Anita. And you being the late running sprinter, you got the job done. Jared spit the bit, kind of fell off. I kid. Jared had a really great day, so I'm very happy to see that he's continued to do well. Considering he just started doing this, you got him into it a month ago? So that's pretty awesome.
as soon as he starts talking shit, he posts that after
That's
the
true.
race, he gets his place. So he's ahead of me when he posts that, knowing he's ahead of me because he wants to post the win. I took the lead back in the last race just to show him what's up, to make sure that he doesn't get too big of a head here. Dr. Miranda was in there. Christopher Potts, obviously, we see his name all the time on the leaderboard too. So it's fun for all these people getting involved. I know Aaron, who's in the background here, has been enjoying playing tournaments and starting getting involved in more of these, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great way to play a full day's card of races for less money. I could talk about the takeout and why there's a huge value in that perspective as well. But it's a great way to it's a different style of handicapping. And we've kind of workshopped the idea of doing a tournament show and figuring out how to talk more about that and some of the ways that you try and qualify for NHC and how you have to change your handicapping style when you're playing tournaments versus playing cash tickets. Much like when we talk about, if you're playing a trifecta and exacta in a race, you have to handicap differently than if you're playing a horse to win or if you're playing a pick 3 or pick 4, because what you need is different in a tournament, in exactas, and in pick 3s. You're looking for different results. Mm-hmm. So, there's definitely a learning curve and kind of getting into it. But it's so much fun to see all these people doing it. And it's an absolute blast when you're competing in these and you have the pressure of 30 minutes and you have to pick one horse to win. And if you do, you get a $10,000 seat. It's one of those, it's just a really unique situation. It's a lot of fun.
It was great. I saw also Chris, I can't ever say his last, I think it's Mayello. I always want to see Pete Aiello, Pete Aiello, but his Chris Mello Yellow is what his screen name is, so I recognize him. So he was all over it too. So congratulations to everybody. I'm very proud of you. I didn't do any tournament. I didn't really do any horse playing at all, other than the Golden Hour and really just the stakes recaps. Is pretty much the only thing I knew of what happened, because I was spending my weekend helping my wife put together the nursery. That was a pretty big deal. So it's coming along. That was the best thing that I saw, is that we finally have the furniture laid out in a way that we both like. It's quite a small room. It's only an 8x10 room, and we have a dresser, a crib, and a nursing chair already in there. So trying to fit everything, into this space is a little tricky, but we got it done. Going to be painting either this week or maybe on Sunday this weekend. So it's just nice seeing all this sort of stuff come along, because it's been building up, and we got 10 weeks left till the kid's going to be here. So I'm like, a little bit of me inside being like, gotta get this done. Yeah. So getting stuff done and moving along, that was the best thing that I saw, other than Acacia and Miguel Clement getting engaged, of course. Yeah,
it's nice to check off the nursery list, but that was definitely one of my oh shit moments. This is real, because wait a second, we're gonna have a kid soon. It's pretty crazy when you get to that point. There's those moments in the timeline, like the first time that she shows, and there's different times that you're like, oh crap, this is happening, and putting the crib together and then stepping back and looking at this room with a changing table and the crib and the rocking chair and everything, you're like, well, gonna be dad soon. Let's do it.
That's exactly what happened. Yeah, it's like, oh boy. And then today, my wife, officially today is 10 weeks left. And I was like, listen, it's fine that it's at 10. The next Monday, when we have a little chalkboard to track it, when we go single digits, yeah. I might actually just take off running down the street. I might actually panic about that. But it starts to feel real, and it's tough to hold on. All of you people who are parents that have gone through this before, God bless you, because this is not this is not a fun feeling. How you kept going after this it's an inspiration to me.
We made a paper chain for each day, so you take off one piece of paper. I definitely told my wife that she was taking off more than one multiple days. It was just kept shrinking so quickly. I'm like, come on, stop taking off 2, and she just got so upset with me.
Oh man, well let's get over that stuff. Let's talk about some horse racing, Mike. We're going to look at the Golden Hour tickets review, talk about what we got right and wrong. It's pretty obvious for me what I got right and wrong on that one, and then we're going to also talk about Saudi Cup, and because it's going to be a slow day, we opened up the Magic Mike mailbox. You guys did a great job before the show of sending questions. If you're watching live, you didn't get a chance to submit a question, throw it into the chat. And while you're throwing in a question for us in the chat, give us a thumbs up, a like, a heart, a retweet. It would do wonders for us at the algorithms. But let's get into things, Mike. Riders up. I was going to see how far I kept spinning in this chair. All right, Golden Hour first. I don't think I'm going to share anything. It's going to be a little too hard to share, at least for this part, so I'll just talk about it. All right, I guess I'm ready. 3, 2. All right, Mike, first thing we're going to do is look at our Golden Hour Pick 4 tickets from this past Saturday. If you're not aware, the Golden Hour is a $1 minimum Pick 4 sequence covering the last 2 races at Santa Anita, interspersed with the last 2 races at Golden Gate. Because of the $1 minimum and because of the very low takeout for it, it's a really lucrative bet, which we're going to talk about here. We thought we had a good shot at it. And starting things off at Santa Anita Race 8, Mike, we did pretty good. Veroma, the 3-horse, Tiago Pereira. ends up getting the job done by 5.5 lengths, cruises on the front end in for a 30K tag. What'd you think about this race?
I mean, we talked about it. It was one of those spots where we both said you had to use the 3, that it was one that was important to play. And simply because it was the speed of the speed. We talked a lot about the 4 and the 10, how that was cheap speed coming out of that race, and that the 3 horse was coming out of sprints and faster races was the key. One of the questions, I don't know if you use this later, was how do you get to some of these long shots? When you're playing low levels, man, speed is so dangerous. And that's really what played out here, is that you just go to the front end, and these horses don't want to pass anybody. And so if you're inside speed, you're able to get that turn first, it is so hard to get around that horse sometimes. And it's exactly what happened here with the 3 horse, who was able to get the job done for us and kick off the ticket in style. I wish I had gone too deep. I wouldn't have hit the ticket anyway, but I could have gotten here just going too deep. And I'm glad a couple listeners hit the daily double off this too. I saw quite a few people tweet us at the late pick 4, daily double tickets, late pick 5 from Santa Anita. So I'm glad some people cashed in here.
Yeah, Veroma was I was surprised that we ended up getting a good price, 5.5 to 1 on Veroma. And this is a horse that you talked about the speed, which the time form early pace rating was very high for this horse, was coming out of sprints. I was at first a little nervous because the dam side was pretty sprinty, but the siblings for this horse, I talked about on the show, 33 starts, 8 wins, 7 seconds, 4 thirds. So clearly dirt routing from this family is possible, despite what the dam's immediate pedigree tells you. And then getting Vancouver was the son of Medagliadoro as the sire. It all lined up to get the job done here for Tiago Pereira. Not much more to talk about here, really. I liked the 1 was my top pick. She was a horse debuting on the rail, going 2 turns. All things, strikes against her here, but did okay. She blew it from the break. I'm willing to play her back again next time because she just completely blew the break, and then being on the rail, got shoved all the way back. I think with a better draw, a little bit of experience, the fact that she didn't quit completely in this race, she ends up getting up for 5th out of a 9-horse field. I'm okay playing her back. Did you have any issues with that horse?
I mean, it's kind of like someone might have mentioned that the horse didn't have any early speed, would fall back, and it's just not the draw you want for that horse first time out. I don't know who would have possibly mentioned that on the show trying to talk off this horse. I mean, maybe it was the third person who's always on here. But anyway, yeah, no, look, I'm interested in playing back. I think the workouts were okay enough that, like, at this level, it works. But to not have speed at this level, I got to harp on the speed, man. Like, you talk about the pedigree and how this horse can get the distance. The horse was in front. That's how you get the distance. Like, sometimes you just keep going and no one wants to go by you. There was a 1 horse that won that Emily Ellingwood gave a great ride to yesterday, where I don't think the horse was the best. I don't think it necessarily wanted to get a mile, but man, it just kind of kept plugging along and no one really got by. And it was, again, this lower level maiden claimers where you're seeing the multiple sprints to a route. It's a really good angle at these low level races where the horse is going to be in the lead. Just come and get it, because it's often very tough.
Well, and that's the reason why I brought it up, because I remembered what you'd said about my top pick. So congrats to you. You got that one. Let's move to Golden Gate Fields, which if it's NHC time, Mike, is usually a pretty good play for you. Ended up not being so great for us this weekend. Our Silver Oak gets the job done. And a lot of it, I think, really came down to we may have misread that last race that a lot of the horses were coming out of. The King of Speed won by a neck over Our Silver Oak. We both dogged on Our Silver Oak. We're like, that you should have been able to get by that horse in the stretch, and you didn't. And we weren't using King of Speed. Well, Our Silver Oak comes back to win. King of Speed was third, beaten ahead and a nose. Our Silver Oak was my third horse that I would have used, but I went too deep using Kono the 8 and then 5-star Lynch, who was last of 7 here. So I wasn't going to get to it without going too deep in breaking what I was able to budget here. So I didn't end up getting it. You didn't end up getting it. God, this is an annoying race.
Yeah, I don't even feel bad about this one because the 4 should have won this race. And I was on the 4. The 4 was 12 to 1, and the horse loses a photo after I don't think he even knew the 1 was coming, because he goes through the rail and is not able to get up enough, ends up losing, gets the lead by a half length down the stretch and gets caught by the 1 late. I actually feel like I handicapped this race pretty well. I think the 4 was the right horse to have out of that race. At 12 to 1, especially compared to the inside horse, who I think it was 5 to 2. I could not believe that American Farmer lost this race. Now, the 8 horse, I mean, maybe the 8 horse was a bad use. That is the one I would argue was the worst use than the 4. The 4, I think, was dead on. And yeah, maybe I should have. I couldn't have gotten to the 1 if I didn't go shorter in the first leg anyway. And the last leg was an absolute mess. We'll get into that one in a second. But yeah, I felt a little. Let's just put it this way. If the 4 or the 7 had won the last leg, I would have been pretty salty that this 4 didn't get home, because it would have been like a $3,000 pick 4, and it would have been tough to have 2 10 to 1s and then to miss that last leg because the 4 horse took the 7 horse out and went like a million wide in the first turn.
I did mention 5-Star Lynch was the horse that I used along with Kono. This is his first time going to Golden Gate. My impetus was he's been running against better down south. Well, I think the fact that he just completely stopped halfway through the race, Mike, tells us that Golden Gate and even maybe a class drop at Golden Gate is going to help this one. He also, by the way, was trying synthetic for the first time, so I don't know if that might have thrown him off a little bit. He has hit the board in 7 of 13 starts on turf, so it's a little tough, but let's see. I'm not going to completely give up on him. I want to see him try turf, even if it's a Golden Gate one more time before I give it. Is that where you land too?
Yeah, I mean, he's got to be on turf. I think that this was enough of a dud. We also talked about like the switching barns from Baltus to D'Amato. I mean, I realize D'Amato is generally very good first off the claim, but going from the Baltus barn to the D'Amato barn, I believe it's a downgrade in a lot of ways. Like they're about similar, but I'm going to put Baltus a little bit ahead of D'Amato. And so I'm want to see how he does in this D'Amato barn. And if it's 2 or 3 races before we see the best from him again, it might be one more away before you really want to play this horse back. But I do think turf is the key. I was disappointed in the 8 horse, man. I thought that the 8 horse Kono would run a lot better than he did here. I thought we'd return back to that Golden Gate form we saw in February, March 2020. And we kind of returned to the last race where we just got in front and quit. So I'm not sure what I would do with Kono moving forward. That's one where I'm probably not interested in any type of a short price and not really sure what to do moving forward.
Yeah, well, it's crazy because Michael McCarthy is a trainer that I have a lot of respect for. He's a very clean trainer, does things the right way. Once in a while, he has a horse just throw up a complete dud that makes you throw a scratch, like Independence Hall in the Malibu, and then he comes back and gets second in the Pegasus. You're like, wait, what? How did that happen? And he said after the Malibu, I don't know what went wrong. We're just going to keep going because I can't put a finger on it. A lot of us were like, well, that's not convincing. Well, maybe
it should have been.
Let's move back to Santa Anita for what was my favorite race of this whole sequence, probably yours as well, because we were all over this one. You had Bob Baffert in a turf race, which I don't usually like, and a turf sprint on the rail, which I don't usually like. But he had Flavian Pratt, and I was like, I have to use this horse because there's a chance he could win, and I don't want to lose this ticket because this is what happened. By the way, Flavian Pratt smoking red hot over the weekend. We'll talk about that later when we talk about the Saudi Cup. But he was on fire, and I said, I don't want this horse to win. I would love it if he loses and 11 Jetovator with our boy Ruben Fuentes gets the job done. And that's exactly what happened. We got 10-1 on Jetovator, and Ruben rode him perfectly. Loved it. God bless you, Ruben.
Yeah, this was a fun one, man. I wish I'd used this in tournaments instead of the 4, because then I would have won a couple seats on Saturday too. But my dumbass put the 4 in instead, taking a big shot instead of using the 11, who was my top pick at 10-1 and just wins for fun while we're in the field. That was really smart. Yeah, look, we talked about this. You take the last race out, wasn't on turf. You go back to the turf sprints. This horse fit really, really well. I love outside speed. Like, I don't think people realize how valuable outside speed is because you get to see what everyone else is doing. So you can go to the lead, you can stalk, you can decide how you want to play the race. And in this case, Ruben went right to the front, and no one got to him. And like I said, you go back and look at the numbers. His turf sprint numbers are as good or better than everyone in the field. I could not believe that horse went off at 10-1.
Look at this. We got some love coming in here for Ruben. Perfect ride. It was a difference. Listen, I said it like half jokingly on the show, but Ruben Fuentes in the finale is really an angle that I love, and it happens a lot more often than it really should. This guy's got a hot date to get home to. He wants to get across the wire first and get the hell out of there and get home to. I can't explain it other than that, but
well, he's also a good jockey that lost a lot of mounts because of the suspensions. Yes. And so you now have him on some interesting horses that he wouldn't have been on, that he's going to upgrade a little bit or upgrade a tick or two. And you're going to get a price on him because the horses aren't going to be that great, but you're getting what I believe is like that bottom tier of the top tier of jockeys on horses that are prices now, which is rare. Like, you don't often get Pratt at 8-1. You don't get like Rispoli at 10-1. Like, and they don't float up from those morning lines, let alone, or they don't get set at that morning line, let alone float up to a higher price.
I'm very happy here to see your things. Hat tip to Magic's Love of Ruben that got me home in the pick 4. That's from Rob. No joke. I was thinking about this last week. This is Rob at Kentucky. He's got a new Twitter profile. But
the Twitter reset's a good move.
Like last week, it randomly hit me after our show on Thursday. I was like, you know who I haven't seen forever in the comments section is Rob in Kentucky. And then I saw this profile somewhere else, and I was like, I think that might be Rob, but I'm going to wait and see. And boom, he tells us that's him. So congrats to him. I'm real happy that we were able to help a lot of people hit the pick 4 at Santa Anita because we love Jetovator here. We were able to help people with the Golden Hour Daily Double, which this was the leg that kicked that off. So, by the way, if you had a Golden Hour Daily Double ticket that had for $5 base, and you start off with a 10-1 shot winning into it, you've got to feel fantastic going back to Golden Gate for their last race. Race 9. Sorry.
Guess who had a $50 double with the 11 singled up to the 4 and 7 in the last? I'm telling you, everything was so damn frustrating this weekend until
Wow.
Sunday.
And you didn't use that horse in a tournament? You put 50 singled and...
No, didn't do it in the tournament. Oh, and I had the 4 in the tournament the race before. If that horse had won at Golden Gate, that also would have won me tickets. So like I said, horse racing
thing. God bless it. Let's head back to Golden Gate for one last race to talk about the finale there, race 9. These are 3,200 claimers, non-winners of 2 in the last year and a half. This is one of those crazy conditions that you really got to get creative at Golden Gate, and I appreciate that they did this to get a nice 9-horse field here for us. I loved the 9 on top. I loved the 7. I enjoyed the 1. None of them get the job done. It ends up going to the 2 is Invincible, which I didn't think was a hard horse to get to, Mike, but I would have had to go probably 5-6 deep if I was going to use this horse in order to cash. So again, with that dollar base minimum, cut me out of it. Gets the job done a length and a half, and your girl Tinks Twirl, the girl facing the boys, gets second by a nose, and then gets claimed out of it. Your thoughts on this race?
Yeah, man, that 4 was brutal because I was too deep. I was 4 and 7. Those are the 2 I liked here. And the 4 horse just decided not to corner for the first half of the first turn. So when you watch the race, and of course the horse that floats out is a 7, the other one I use. So 7 more or less just done after the first turn, right? It's always a good sign when the 9 horse is inside of the 7 horse on the backstretch. That's always a great sign with how your race is going if you're on the 7. And then the 4 horse kind of gets up there, and unlike the previous race, the horse sneaking up the rail is able to get the job done. So it was just a nice little punch in the gut for how we lost the earlier one. We're going to go ahead and beat you the exact opposite way here in the later version of the race. Can you tell how frustrated I was with the sequence? Yeah, this horse was logical. I mean, that's the thing. You could get here if you were willing to forgive the layoff. And that was the main thing. I mean, everything else fit. We only saw, like I talked quite a bit at length on the podcast on Thursday about when I'm handicapping this type of race, what I'm looking for are horses that are trying this condition for the first time. That's why it got me to the 4 and the 7. They were the first time trying this non-winners of 1 in a year. Well, the 2 horse is an interesting horse because it's tried it once and then went on a layoff. But prior to that was running against much better and ran well the one time it tried this condition. So you could use the same type of angle. You could literally say, well, this horse only tried the condition once. It's not someone that's lost at this condition time and time again, been here for a while. It's kind of a new shooter. It had 1 race. To me, the layoff was the issue here. That was why I kind of got away from this horse. I think that, this probably would have been like my 4th horse in. It would have been really tough for me to get to this horse on a dollar denomination without singling the 11, which would have been really tough to do in that turf sprint, or going short in the other 3 races. And if I go short, there's no way I'm getting the 1 at Golden Gate. And that's why the sequence, which, yeah, okay, there's a $20 winner in here. The sequence paid $1,500 for a buck. A hell of a value from a pick 4 perspective. $1,500 for a buck. This wasn't that hard. I mean, the 1 horse was a Jonathan Wong horse who was 5-2 that neither of us had. And this one was a realistic 5-1 shot. I mean, like it wasn't like this was a crazy tough sequence, and we were nails in the 2 Santa Anita races. So, yeah, I mean, this is a great value if you want to play into a late pick 4.
The best part about this for me, I was like, well, I went 2 for 4, but God damn it, I got both the Santa Anita races right, so that made me feel better.
I played the wrong double. I should have played the double in Santa Anita instead of playing the freaking late Golden Hour double. Would have been great.
No kidding. I just closed out of that. I forgot what that was going to pay, but that would end up paying pretty nice, I'm sure. Is Invincible, you talked about the layoff being a concern. That was my concern too. And the trainers got 18% with positive ROI after a similar layoff, but here's why I was concerned. Last race is in October. His last recorded work in 2020 was at the end of November. He goes missing, comes back late January, 3 works, and now he's come back. You don't see horses come back from a long layoff like that with 3 works and usually perform well. However, this is the 3,200 claimer non-winners of 2 in the last year and a half level. So maybe we both read a little bit too much into, I don't know if he's going to be ready to come back, and should have been like, look, these are a bunch of mules. This barn is good at bringing mules back when they're a little rusty, and just left it at that.
Yeah, but this horse had been like a special level of bad coming off a layoff, though. Like that's the other part of it. It's like it's not even this horse has like 2 wins on the page that you saw off the layoff. It's this kind of part where it's just like, oh, the horse kind of plodded around and needed a race, and now, like again though, you make a very good point. I obviously stressed this on a Third Day podcast. Non-winners of X in a year, man, like that. Non-winners of money in a year, non-winners of 1 in a year, 2 in a year. Find the new shooters. They're the horses that have the best shot at winning, man, because those are like it's the logical contenders, because there's a reason why they're just now eligible for this. It's because they were winning a year ago and no one else was winning when they were sitting in this condition. So yeah, I mean, I the more I look at this too, the more I'm actually upset with myself for not getting to it, because the 17 off was, pissed off. The 17% off the layoff isn't that bad. And like I said, the horse ran well at this level and then takes the break, had never tried the level before that. So, the 2 horse to me is a pretty logical play here now that I've breadboard the crap out of this. So could have gotten there, didn't get there. Wish the 4 had gotten there, but whatever.
Mike, the biggest race, the richest race in the world happened this past weekend, but if nobody really talked about it, did it really happen? We can look at this now. The $20 million Saudi Cup over in Saudi Arabia, Riyadh, at the King Abdulaziz racetrack, the second annual. The first one had a lot of fireworks. This one had some more fireworks, but in a much better way, if I might say so. I want to, first off, Mishrif getting the job done against several of the best dirt horses in America. That is not an easy thing to do. I want to give a tip of the cap to Dr. Miranda, because on Dr. Miranda previews, she gave out the winning exacta here. She didn't say put Charlatan and Nix Go in first and Mishrif second. She said box Mishrif with Charlatan and Nix Go. She would have had the try as well if not for Great Scott coming up there and mucking it up. But listen, this was a nice paying exacta. It was a nice paying hit for Mishrif. Beating Charlatan, beating Nix Go on the dirt, on the biggest stage. I mean, you got to love that unless, you're a fan of those 2 trainers. But otherwise, we love it, right?
So you're telling me you're into Mischief? Oh, man. Anyway, no, look, does a race happen if there's no internal fractions? Do we even have the fractions yet? Like, I haven't been able to find them. It's ridiculous. You have a $20 million race. I had no clue what the half mile was. It looked like they were going pretty fast, and that, Charlatan kind of had to work out front, and that you then got the pressure inside from Nix Go, and that's what really weakened up Charlatan enough that Mischief was able to get by. Man, that was a heck of... I thought for sure the 11 was going by, and then I thought for sure the 11 was not going by, and then just squeaks by there in the last 100 meters. So exciting horse race, and I feel terrible for Bob Baffert. I hope all is well in everything that's going on in his life after this heartbreaking loss. But it was a fun race, man. But I don't... It's fun seeing these horses bang heads. I hope that we get to see Mischief over here in the BC, that we get to see him try it at a U.S. track, go in 2 turns and see what happens. I don't get excited about these races. I just for some reason, I can't get way into these big days that are the international days over in the Middle East. They're just not for me, man. The limited betting options. I mean, I get why you send a horse over there. Shitload of money. Go for it. Do your thing. I know, I get it. But and especially with how hard it was for some jockeys to be able to get there, that's super frustrating because, a lot of people gave up really good mounts this weekend to sit in an airport in Spain. So that kind of sucks. It's just, I mean, what do I take? The other part of this, and this is really the handicapping side of it versus just the Mike bitching about not liking the race that much side of it. I'm not sure what to take away from this race because this racetrack is so different. The configuration is so different than what we see in the U.S. that, do I still think that Charlatan can definitely get 1.25 miles going 2 turns with pressure? I kind of have the same opinion I did before this race, and anything that happened in this race doesn't really change it that much because of the with the Dubai World Cup. The problem with that track has been it's an absolute conveyor belt. You've had a cement speed level there, and so whoever's on the lead wins. And I always want to take these with a grain of salt because I'm not sure how well they transfer over to the U.S. And a lot of times, I don't want horses returning from this big of a trip first time out in the U.S. We've seen a lot of horses struggle when they come back. So it's just an interesting scenario from a betting perspective. I don't put a lot of weight into it, but I totally understand why you want to run your horse there. It's a lot of money. Yeah.
Well, that's why you had 14. A lot of these were turf horses showing up going, it's $20 million. Why not? We could use $20 million. So it was the next steps for these horses, I guess, is probably the logical progression here. Charlatan and Nix Go, Max Player. I keep forgetting he was there. He was there like Umberto Rispoli was there. Not really. They are already back in the United States. Sleepy Eyes Todd, Tacitus are going out to Dubai for the Dubai World Cup. Also going to Dubai, Channelmaker, who was second in the $1 million Turf Cup on the undercard. He's headed to Dubai. And Cohen, this is my favorite part. Cohen, who have run second in every goddamn stakes race he enters, is now going to Dubai for the mile and 3/16 UAE Derby. This is a horse that was a turf sprinter who is now going to try a mile and 3/16 on dirt, but it is Dubai, and that's also a conveyor belt track. So I really think Cohen's got a shot for second in that race, depending who shows up. Charlatan, let's start with him. I feel like with this race, yes, it was a conveyor belt. It's a very odd, tricky configuration. John White had questions about this horse going a mile and an eighth. His lowest speed figure, only less than triple-digit buyer, was doing a mile and an eighth in the Arkansas Derby. He goes a mile and an eighth and he gets caught here late. Is he really ultimately going to be best as a one-turn horse? The Met Mile could be a really awesome target for him in June. Bring back, get some lay down, relax, recover, and aim for that. Do you think that's a good spot for Charlatan?
I mean, I think if you just have a Charlatan without any special sauce, that he's a one-turn horse, and that's where you got to stick to it with the 7 furlongs mile races, and he is a beast there. Like that, we've seen that. Like his Malibu, man. Like I was not in love with Charlatan, and like man, just ultra impressive, right? And so that was one of those races where you just watch, and just think, damn, that horse can move. And so I think this horse is a one-turn horse. I don't really want to stretch it 2 turns, let alone like try and play the classic distance game where the big money is. Do you really want to go a mile and a quarter with this horse? Like we're talking about a mile and eighth is where you're struggling. You're going to go into the BCB, like the Breeders' Cup Classic, and go a mile and a quarter? Like no thanks. So if I'm the connections, I'm looking for one-turn miles. I'm looking for 7 furlong races. Maybe the BC Sprint is what you end up targeting. Like I don't see you trying to play that 2-turn long race game here with Charlatan.
I'd be curious if they even want to try the dirt mile, which is going to be at Del Mar this year, so it's going to be 2 turns. I'll be curious to see if they end up what they want to do. It's an interesting theory, but Charlatan's got to have to even still be intact 6 months from now. 8 months from now. You
usually have so much speed that signs up for that dirt mile that I just would think that you'd want to go with the sprint, which I know sounds funny because like you have a ton of speed in the sprint too. Yeah, I get that, but it's a different kind of like you need to be able to hold your speed much differently to go the mile versus the sprint. And he showed the ability to stalk off Nashville and go right by. So you don't need to be in the lead in the sprint where if he's going 2 turns, you want him in front.
How about Nix Go? This horse, I guess my big question for you, do we see Nix Go race again? Because he's back in America. Brad Cox said he's tired. He's going to get a freshening. This is a horse that won the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, the Pegasus World Cup, and was 4th in the world's richest race, and has a very lucrative career as a stallion in Korea waiting for him when he retires. Do you think they bring him back? I don't know. It's kind of curious what they'll end up doing with Nix Go, and if he does come back, I'm thinking like we see 1 prep in a Breeders' Cup, and that's it. What about you?
Yeah, I think that's what you end up seeing. If you were going to retire him, wouldn't you have just retired him? Like
that's true.
Why wouldn't you have just said we're retiring him? You flew him
and then
right
just
back.
Go to Korea instead of back to America.
Yeah, like so if you're going to freshen him up, what are you freshening him up for? Do you like a nice little fluff job before he goes over and plays a stud? Like no, come on. Like we're gonna try and get him back out to the racetrack, and if we do so, I think you're probably going to see 1 prep, and then you're going to see him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. Like that's the clear target in my mind. Like think about the older horses going 2 turns in California. I mean, you're telling me he can't win a big prep race out there as his race back and then go right in? Like there's some big time Pacific Classic and things like that. Could be the return race where he'd be the favorite. So I mean, maybe you show up somewhere like that.
Dennis says fluff job with a question mark. I'm wondering if he's questioning like that you said that, or if he's questioning what a fluff job would be. If it's the latter, Dennis, I'll answer it off air. There it is. Yeah, Dennis knows what we're talking about. Yeah, he's a little worried. Yeah, don't worry. Kids are already in bed, Dennis. Don't worry about it. Tacitus is the other one. This is a lightning rod horse. You and I really love to play against this horse when he's in America. The plan last year was Saudi Cup as a prep for the Dubai World Cup, which is a mile and a quarter, very much within his wheelhouse. A mile and a quarter is the shortest this horse should be running. Well, he runs in the in the Saudi Cup this year. He's off to Dubai already, assuming they don't cancel it again this year. Knock on wood. Tacitus in the Dubai World Cup. Yay, nay, nah.
When do you want to closer on either of these tracks? Like, and yeah, I realize he's got some speed, but like, the Tacitus is not going to wire these fields, and that's the only way he'd have a shot at winning these races. Like, this is a grade 3 horse. Can we all just admit this is a grade 3 horse? Like, 'cause the only grade 1 he won was against a shit field. Like, we've been saying this for...
Was that a grade? I thought it was a grade 2. Has he
I thought he got a grade 1. I thought he got his grade 1 against like a grade 5 field.
It was the Suburban. It's a grade 2. Yeah.
Is it a grade 2? Can't get a grade 1 for that?
No.
Oh, poor Tacitus. Tough luck, Tacitus.
Tough luck.
But yeah, man, like, look, this is a grade 3 horse. When he faces grade 3 fields, then yeah, then he fits. But like, I think it's hilarious this horse keeps getting bet back. To me, that's absolutely nutty. Like, I get it. Like 15-1 morning line seemed about right, and then I turn it on, and it's 8-1 going off. I'm like, who bet him down? Like how does this happen? So anyone who's on the Tacitus juice, just put down the glass, set it aside, Wait for a couple races. You need at least 20-1 in a grade 1 to bet this horse again.
Unless your name's Vinny or Slim, in which case we just sounded like Charlie Brown's teacher to you just now. So keep on keeping on, guys. All right, Mike. Well, that was the end of the show in terms of the races to cover. But like I mentioned, we've got a bunch in the Magic Mike Show mailbag to pull up here. So as I pull this up, I think we had a question at the beginning here that I wanted to go back to. Maybe not. No, we didn't. All right. Well, if you guys have questions, go ahead and let us know what they might be. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the first one here as soon as my computer will let me do so. Here we go. This is from a money man at Grind DFS, who is also an owner with Tiz the Magician, Moonlight Joe, a bunch of My Racehorse. We always get to talk My Racehorse horses whenever Tiz the Magician has worked or there's news about him. I know about it because I get a message from him before I even find out from My Racehorse. So very happy to kick things off. Best advice for a new handicapper, Mr. Samich.
Well, this one's easy. Listen to the Magic Mike Show.
Next question. All right.
Focus on one thing. Like, I was thinking about this after I saw this question. I think that, like, even as a veteran handicapper, I think you often make the mistake of trying to do too many things at once. Like, decide, hey, am I going to try and pick the winner of this race? Am I going to try and play exactas? Am I going to try and play pick threes over the day? Just focus on one thing and try and get good at that one thing, and then slowly add things to your repertoire, right? Don't try and play tournaments, play win bets, play multi-race bets, and play like tries at the same time. Pick one thing, pick one track, and like study the form, watch the races, study the form after the races, try and figure out what you missed, what you got right, what you got wrong, and then use that to be able to grow as a handicapper. But I think the most common mistake people make when they start handicapping is they're doing too much, because there's so much out there, so much information, and there's so many tracks constantly running. We've got 2 races that are at post time right now at 6:14 on Monday night. Like, there's so much going on that you always have information that you can be consuming. So just focus on one thing and decide to try and get good at that before really stretching yourself out.
I've learned from Aaron, because we get this question a lot with the emails from new users and people looking to sign up. Aaron's advice: bet to win. Bet small. Keep within your range. Take a small amount of money, because you'll get a thrill when you're starting off. You'll get a thrill from a $2 winner, from a $5 winner. If your horse is in front, man, it doesn't matter if you only got $5 on it. If that horse is in front, you're getting a thrill coming down the wire. So bet to win, bet small, and then everything else that Mike said. But that would be my, at least the short-term version of best advice. From Nick Sievers: best non-major track to watch racing. Not the best racing, but the best place to watch. He's up in Northern California, so he loves Golden Gate. He also likes Lone Star. What do you think, Mike?
2 of them for me. I have not been back to Arlington in a long time, but I loved going to Arlington Racetrack. So Arlington would definitely make the list for me. The one I have been to recently that I thought was absolutely phenomenal and completely like above the expectations I had, Remington Park. Great place to watch horse races. So Remington Park and Arlington Park would be the 2 that I would say exceeded expectations for me.
I know Aaron loves Remington Park too. He's gone down there to see our boy Welder a few times. Listen, I've talked about it before. If you listen, you know I haven't been to that many tracks. But the ones that I have been to, God, I'm going to sound like such a homer. I'm sorry. It's Santa Anita and Del Mar, because the backdrops, you cannot beat the backdrop of Santa Anita with the San Gabriel Mountains, especially right now. They're still snow-capped. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. With Del Mar, you've got the ocean. I mean, if you're in the grandstand, you look to your left, you can see the ocean past the track.
So which one of those is not a major track? Just asking for a friend.
Did he say, non-major track? I missed that. Wow. I literally missed the second word in the sentence. I'm sorry, Nick. Someone needs to edit me.
So you've only been to Los Al as a non-major track, right? Like, is that the list?
I can't say Los Al. Listen, Los Al's fun. I do like going to Los Al like once a year. I talk about it's like my palate cleanser. I'm so used to the highfalutin Santa Anita Del Mar. Sometimes I just got to go to Los Al and remind myself this is the nitty gritty. This is the real blue collar part of horse racing. All right, best non-major track to watch on TV. I love watching Golden Gate. I also don't recommend betting it because I think they're more crooked than a hanger. But Finger Lakes. I love the announcer at Finger Lakes. And there they go every time. Every time he does that, and it gets me going. So I like to watch that place. Do not bet Finger Lakes. They're crooked as the day is long there, I swear. We got to do a Magic Mike tour bus. Like, we got to get an RV and just go around to non-major tracks, just so you can actually experience what it's like to go to some of these places. Because like you need to go to Remington. You need to go to
I would love to go to Will Rogers and Kentucky Downs. That is great. Like I would love to go to some of these places and just spend a summer recording podcasts and playing tournaments.
Dude, so I pitched that actually to my 1 or 2 years ago. I told my wife, I was like, listen, pipe dream, I think it'd be so great if we had got an old school bus and really, took time to do it up and make it nice inside and make it more like a livable thing. We can call it Magic's School Bus, and we'll literally just do a cross-country tour all summer where, each weekend we're at a different track and we're, broadcasting from there and along the week talking about the travels and cool places. I had this whole huge plan that I thought sounded so cool. She didn't agree, but I thought it sounded cool.
That was the 1-9 favorite of the show. That she was not going to agree with that.
Yeah. From @Darren Sipes, one of our regulars, are there any class levels where you feel pace figures are more important than speed figures? Go ahead.
Lower the level, the more important the pace figure is, right? We talked about. I got to someone asked long shots in tournaments. I talked about that one that I got to purely on pace. We talked about the 3 here. Bottom level winless horses, bottom level maidens, speed, speed, speed. Bottom level claimers, speed. Bottom level not one in a year, speed. Like that, to me, the lower level you get, the more important those pace figures are, because you want horses that are on the lead or close to it, or you are in trouble.
I'm glad you said that, because that was my theory on this, and I texted Aaron right before the show. I was like, I just want to make sure that this sounds correct and I don't sound like a dumbass. I'll save that for other parts, but I want to at least make sure for Darren's question I got the right answer. Sounds like it. Let's go to the chat real quick. Dennis Trusty asks, race you're looking forward to most this weekend? Mike, we could probably talk about it. I think we need to go to Gulfstream for the Thursday show, because 9 stakes races headlined by the Fountain of Youth Stakes. There's going to be an inside track to the Fountain of Youth Stakes wagering guide that we're going to be working on this week, so you can check on that later. But I honestly, I think that the race I'm looking forward to the most is the Fountain of Youth, because Prime Factor is supposed to be in it, and that will determine, do we turtle the rest of the Fantasy League season, or do we actually have a shot in hell of winning? So that's what I'm most looking forward to. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I have not looked at the fields yet, so this is just like Mike's shameless plug. It would be the Fountain of Youth, just because I love that. What I'm most excited about this weekend is the obvious live stream that we'll be doing at racingdudes.com. There is no way we don't do a live stream with Fountain of Youth and with Oaklawn going this weekend. So I'm excited to get back on the horn and bust some balls and watch some horse racing and hopefully give out a couple winners.
I wasn't sure that Oaklawn, did they finally get the snow cleared up in Oaklawn? That's going to be pretty crazy. I feel bad because it's 2 weekends of racing at a really amazing track that we've lost. So hopefully the weather cooperates for us. I love Jim because his handle is @NotABot. Which wagering sites do you use? Maybe reasons why you use one over the others. I'm a big TVG guy. What about you?
The ones that will let me play them. TVG, yeah. I mean, that I think is the kind of the standard answer. I think really it's personal preference and what you got used to. From a tournament perspective, I like horse tourneys quite a bit. That to me is the one that I would go to over something like Derby Wars, just because you have a bigger selection, more tracks. They're also owned by different companies, so you'd see different racetracks on each one. But yeah, I mean, I think for the most part, 6 of one, half of a dozen the other here. I don't see any huge advantage from one site over the other.
I guess it depends on reasons why you use one over the others. TVG, when I first started, was the one that I found easiest to use. I liked their interface the best. I liked that I could watch replays from anywhere. It seemed very easy to access. Just go off of your personal style, what you like for a feel. I think Mike's right that mostly, unless you're a major whale, the voucher returns, the rebates, it's not going to make a lot of difference. For me, that's not something I care about. I like the promotions TVG offers from time to time. They do win bet insurance. They do exacta bet insurance, pick 4 bet insurance. So they offer stuff like that. Just do your research on what you like. I personally very much disagree with how CDI runs their business as a corporation. So I try to not give them any of my dollars if I can. But that's just me personally. If you use Twin Spires, if you're in Kentucky, that's what you use. So hell, you go to Churchill Downs, you can't use anything but Twin Spires on their grounds there. So another reason I don't love CDI, but
yeah, I would guess I'd shout out ExpressBet, which I guess is now First Bet. They've done a good job with their tournament infrastructure on their website too. So they're doing a good job with the cash game tournament. So I do like that. And yeah, I agree with Jason. You shop around, if you're able to have 4 sites, have them all, get all the bonuses, get all the promos, and make it. Look, it's hard enough to win money betting on horses. Take every edge you can get in that sense.
Question here in the chat from Dennis: Will Rogers or Fauner Park Well, our buddy John Lees is at Will Rogers, so it's Will Rogers 8 days a week for me.
I'll bet one of those in 2021. I won't bet the other. We'll just put it that way. I'm sure you can guess which I'll be betting.
We got another one here from Darren. Turf races are run very much differently than dirt races. Agree. Please give your Reader's Digest version of how you handicap turf races, and then any books or articles you suggest on handicapping turf races. Mike, let's look at the first part of the question. How do you handicap turf races?
Well, how do I handicap turf race? Well, the first thing I do is look at the distance, the pace, and who kind of is the favorable horses in those sense. I think one of the easier ways to find long shots is speed on the turf and understanding who's stretching out from going shorter, or horses that are shortening up that were going longer. I think that changing distances on the turf is a lot easier than changing distances on the dirt. I think turf horses have the ability to carry their speed longer than a dirt horse does. So a turf horse that's going, mile and 16th off 2 sprints, I think has a lot more likelihood of getting that versus a horse that's able to go shorter, that's trying to stretch down. So the dirt horses also, for me, I think you have to look at it differently because not all of them can carry the same speed over such a long distance. I like to look at turf races and say, okay, let's put these horses in flights. Who's going to be up front? Who's going to be in the middle? Who's going to be in the back? Look at the paces. I also think it's important to look into the specific form of the races prior and the time. I'm not a big time guy, but I am a big how fast they go in the last quarter guy, because in turf races, it's often turn of foot that wins races, where in dirt races, it's all the performance over the distance. So that last quarter can mean more in a turf race in a lot of other situations. And sometimes it also can give away, like, look, if they come home in 23 seconds in a turf race, the horse that was closing into that 23 seconds had zero chance. You almost draw a line through the entire race because they had no chance of winning. They're not going to run 22 seconds in the final quarter to be able to get home. You rarely see that same thing in dirt. On turf, it's that final sprint quarter, especially in places like New York, where you have these slow paces and then these sprints home. Gulfstream, you have a little bit more pace up front, but that's because the turf holds better. So it's really just kind of handicapping how that turf is playing and understanding the differences between what wins a turf race and what wins a dirt race. I also think class is more important on turf. That's the other part of this, because you do have these condensed races. Sometimes a mile and 16th race on the turf is really 4 furlongs. And when it's like that, class matters and trip matters a lot. So I'm going to be more of a class handicapper on turf. I'm going to be a little bit more of like, hey, how fast do they go late, and trying to dissect races prior. And I also watch a lot more replays on turf, because I think trip matters a lot on turf. So I think it's important to watch replays.
Yeah, I'll probably say I agree with everything you said. For me, probably the most important part is trip. I've started with DRF. I've started leaving really detailed trip notes when I go back. So right now, today, I didn't watch any racing other than the stakes and the golden hour stuff. So this morning I watched every race from Friday's card at Santa Anita. I made detailed notes about the horses that I liked and what worked, what didn't. So for me, a lot of it is trip based, and I love, especially with turf. I feel like I'm a much better turf handicapper. The turf thing for me, a lot of it is just plotting out the trip, kind of like what you said. I heard Ricky does that a lot too. On the Rocket Hour show, he probably talks about it a lot. He likes to plot out who's going to be where at certain points in the race to help him do that. The second part of Darren's question, any books or articles you suggest on handicapping just turf races? I can't think of any. I will say that I've talked about it before, but Brad Free has a lot of great columns on drf.com, so you can read some of his stuff. He's pretty good about talking about little aspects that he likes to talk about with handicapping, but specifically for handicapping turf, I don't know of any books or articles other than that. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know of any of them. I mean, there's like the classic books, but I've never been a big book guy. Like I'm someone who will try and listen to as much information, but I think the best way to learn in horse racing is to listen to people that you trust. And obviously if you do have, look, horse racing is changing so quickly, it's hard to have an accurate book on handicapping. I mean, that's the other part of it. A lot of the books that are out there are from years ago. It's not from people who are doing it right now. And races are just like the turf race on Gulfstream, you have to handicap differently than a turf race at Belmont. I think that makes it tough. And I've never seen an article going over, hey, at these tracks, I'm looking at this way. At this track, I'm looking at this way. It's never seen anything kind of go in that direction. So it's tough.
Question here from Philip McIntyre. Whoops, the wrong one there. God, you guys are flying in with the comments all of a sudden. Best replay source. YouTube. There's a bunch of stuff on YouTube. Also, depending on the ADW you use, you can see every race replay. TVG has every race replay for a horse available there. So it doesn't matter if they're at a Churchill Downs track or not. So that's what I would use.
Yeah, that would so that would be one differentiator in the ADW world is if your ADW doesn't have replays, that's a big negative. DRF has done a wonderful job with their new interactive PPs where you can click on the trip notes. So, like for instance, I'm looking right now at the Turf Paradise for Monday because I might have played a tournament, and over here on the top it says dueled prevailed. If you click on that, you can actually pull up the replay. So, like when I'm handicapping Gulfstream Park and there's let's say a $16,000 claimer on the turf going a mile on the 16th, and 4 of the horses in the race all came out of the same race last time. That's an obvious one where I'll just go ahead and click on that and watch it. So I think that's definitely a good tool to use when you have the chance to watch replays.
I'm glad you brought that up because I remember when DRF made that change. It used to be you had to click on the race and like wait for the race to the whole card to load for that day and then click on watch replay. Nope, you can just pop it up right now. Love it. DRF's formulator is we don't get any money from this, so we should stop talking about it. But DRF formulator is pretty great. Dr. Miranda Bunge's finally shown up to the show, and she is continuing her very odd decision to try and pair up the racing dudes with each other. She wants to know, Mike Samich, if you were single and browsing on Grindr, which racing dude would you swipe right on and why? I'm assuming swipe right means that you like them. I still don't understand. This is all, yeah.
This first off, thank you for the compliment. Thinking I'm young enough to ever have used a dating app. I appreciate that. I've never used. I don't know Tinder. I don't know any of this stuff. So obviously it would be Magic. I don't even know why this is a question. Come on, let's get serious here. Like first off, he's in California. He'd be the only one on there. Like Jared and Aaron are not probably never would show up. So that makes it pretty easy. And I know I get along with the guy. So there you go. I'm going Magic.
Well, thank you. You must not have seen Blinkers Off when she asked the same question and I chose Aaron.
Of course you chose Aaron. You're always choosing Aaron.
I take that back. She didn't say that. She said, who would you go on a date with? I would agree that I would. This is so weird. I would agree that I would swipe right on you. I said that Aaron would be great for a date because we always have a 5-minute conversation that turns into a half hour. And then I've never once paid for a meal or a drink with Aaron Halterman. I forgot to mention that, but that is also nice. So, I don't have to pay for anything on the date either. This is fantastic. I love that.
There you go. Bam.
All right, we've got one final question here, and we'll wrap things up. Thank you so much, everybody who's been participating with us. We really appreciate it. This is always a lot of fun for us. I got to get Miranda's comment off of there. I can't even see what I just pulled up here. Where is it? There it is. Man, you guys are flying with the comments. All right, last one is from our boy Nick Severs. One more question. How do you construct horizontal tickets? I listen to you guys often. He does. He hears us talk about the tickets and the defensive use terms, all that. How often do you look at what it will pay to determine your ticket, and or how much do you worry more about cost of ticket versus ROI? This is a very good question after such an extremely chalky weekend at Santa Anita until Sunday evenings.
Yeah, I mean, so for me, I think it's very important to look at what you think something will pay when you're constructing the ticket. And it also determines what horses you should be using. In certain cases, even if you like a horse, in my mind, and this is my personal style, this is different for different people, I'm going to leave off favorites to put long shots on there because I want to try and compound the payouts. Like I'm not playing a $108 ticket to try and win $162. I actually think that's a terrible style to try and do that. I think that you should be trying to find ways to take big time shots on those. So, so when I try to write an article about how I do ticket construction, I've tried like 3 times. I always struggle with it. It ends up way too long. And in my mind, it's too choppy and just doesn't make a ton of sense. One of the keys to me is that if I do this, like I want to look at the entire sequence. So let's say it's a pick 5. Let's look at the pick 5. Let's look at the win odds of my top pick in those races. Multiply those together. What does that win parlay pay? That's a good baseline of, okay, what do I like to use? But then I also look, if I like 3 favorites in the sequence and I don't like 2 favorites, I'm willing to play a little bit more. If I like 5 favorites in the sequence, I'm probably playing a $5 ticket. So I'll change my denomination based on how much I think it'll pay and who I like. So for me, I think it's important that I don't think people look at the entire sequence enough. I think a lot of people look at race by race and say, I look at race 1, I like 3 horses. Okay, I look at race 2, I like 2 horses. Okay, I look at race 3, I like 3 horses. Oh, my budget's $48. I guess I'm going to use 3 horses in the last race. That is just mind-blowingly wrong. Don't do that. Just look at the entire sequence, figure out how much you think it could pay. Because look, a $48 ticket where it's 4 favorites is a terrible bet. Okay? A $48 ticket where it could pay $2,000 is a very good bet, assuming that you're constructed properly. And so you got to look at the whole sequence. You got to try and think, okay, how much could this pay? What will it pay if my top picks are going to win? Are there 2 4 to 5 favorites I really like? And then figure out how much it's worth investing into that sequence versus setting up budget and then working backwards from it.
That's all great advice. You should listen to Mike because he's better with the ticket construction than I. I'm still trying to work on. I feel like I've gotten better at it, but definitely not up to your level. For me, if I look at a race, I'll go through, I'll handicap the whole card. I'll put together tickets and look at them. And if it looks like I'm doing what Mike is talking about, where it's like, I got a bunch of chalk here in this sequence, I just don't play it. Like at that point, if I think it's going to be super chalky, it's not worth it for me to bet. And I think sometimes that's just as important as handicapping, is knowing when, if something looks like it's not going to pay anything, maybe just take it off. You don't have to, like, I don't think anybody has a gun to Nick's head making him, I hope not, making him make all these bets. So just take your time with it. Don't, if you think it's going to be chalky, just sit on it. There's nothing wrong with that. We have one surprise question coming in here from Magic's date himself, Mr. Aaron Halterman. Aaron wants to know probably where we're going to dinner on our date, right?
Oh, that's the date joke. I didn't even get the date joke before. Now I get it. There we go.
Yeah, I've watched this whole show, so you guys should be proud of me, first of all. And as Magic's date, I feel like I owe it to you guys to watch the show now. So, all right, here's the question. We're all three big hockey fans, right? Today is the 41-year anniversary of Miracle on Ice. So pretty awesome, right? So what is your personal horse racing version of the Miracle on Ice? Like a big upset, but also like a feel-good moment as well.
Well, the first one for me that comes to mind is Whitmore winning the Breeders' Cup Sprint. And I think this one's impactful for me because I didn't have any money bet on him. I had money bet on everybody but Whitmore pretty much. But the call from Kurt Becker when he realized that Whitmore in his fourth try finally was going to win the Breeders' Cup Sprint, I just got a little bit of goosebumps thinking about it. Like that call and that moment and just knowing how much like it meant to his connections into Oaklawn. I was like, God, this is finally. It's like one of those. It's like you got to the end of a movie, a sports movie, and you're like, oh my God, they finally won the championship. And now that we can roll credits on that. What about you, Mike?
She wasn't a huge long shot, but Zenyatta's first classic, the one that she won when she was a country mile behind. And what was the call from Demon was like, she'll have to be a super horse to win this one. And then she cuts out to the 7 path and just starts chomping up ground like Magic sees a pizza and just and gets right to the front and is able to get her nose down on the wire. I mean, that was it. She was 60-1 on the backstretch. Like that's the thing. She wasn't at the start of the race, but man, it looked like she had no prayer. And taking on the boys and being able to do that in California, I mean, that to me would be the one that kind of comes to mind, even though it's not that crazy long shot price.
That's a great question. Aaron, do you want to share who yours would be?
I would have to go with Mind That Bird in the Kentucky Derby, equally as like feel good because it's like, who is this guy that just won the Kentucky Derby? And that is an absolute miracle as well. I like both answers were good though. Zenyatta certainly felt like a miracle at the half mile pole, so that was really good. All right. That's it. I had to know.
Yeah, I would also want to say, or would have said, maybe XY Jet winning the oh, sorry, I earned the shop yet. XY Jet winning the Golden Shaheen in his third try. Mind Your Biscuits winning it twice. The second time I thought was more impressive because he came from last on a track that literally had gate to wire winners in every dirt race on the card. He was the only one to overcome it, so that was a good one as well. But by the way, you talk about pizza. I literally have a Domino's gift card sitting here on my computer. You were not wrong about that one, and now Aaron knows where he can take me to get some cheap food, but I am not using my gift card. You, sir, are still paying for the date.
I figured.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode of the Magic Mike Show. Thank you so much, everybody who's been listening, playing along, following along, submitting the questions. We always love it when you guys do that. Mailbox is always open, so if you ever have any questions, if we're not doing the show, shoot it to Mike and I on Twitter. You can follow us there. I am at Curtis Keller. He is at SummerBomb18, number 1, number 8. Corporate overlords, including Mr. Aaron Halterman, are at Racing_Dudes. As I mentioned, Fountain of Youth Stakes is this weekend at Gulfstream Park, so we're going to have the Inside Track wagering guide for the Fountain of Youth Stakes coming out later this week. 9 graded stakes on the card. It's going to be nuts. Plus, Oaklawn Park is finally back, we hope. But listen, all eyes are going to really be on Gulfstream Park this weekend, right, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, well, Gulfstream Park is going to be huge. That card's amazing. They always do a good job on Fountain of Youth Day, and it's going to be loaded. It's probably 12, 13 races like usual. You're going to have multiple pick fours, a couple pick fives, and they do a great job on these days of making it just kind of, you have that progression as you start. There's probably some pretty ugly races early, first couple, but man, like third race on, it's usually pretty good. So I'm excited to see that card, and I'm excited to see if we get any debut horses. Like I'm still interested to see if we have any of those 3-year-olds lurking that we can claim and hopefully save our season with.
Speaking of which, is a shame about prevalence. He spiked a temperature. Brendan Walsh said that he is going to miss the Fountain of Youth, so it's going to be really hard to try and get in the Kentucky Derby. We'll see what happens there, but make sure you go to racing.com. In the meantime, we got all the picks, the premium products, and the selections that you need, including the Summer Bomb, so go check it out. We will be back on Thursday at 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific to cover the Gulfstream Park Late Pick 4. We'll see you then. Until next time, I'm Magic.
And I'm Mike.
Good luck.
The Magic Mike Show, where you hear the experts speak. The Magic Mike Show. Tune into the show every week. The Magic Mike Show. You can trust the show is the bomb because it's being brought to you by RacingDudes.com.